In a small forgotten town nestled deep in the countryside, there was a street that few people travelled. It was a narrow, winding road lined with old, crumbling buildings and tall, silent trees that seemed to guard secrets of a bygone era. The street, known as Wainwright Street, was shrouded in an air of mystery, especially during the early morning hours when the fog rolled in, thick and heavy. One such morning, the fog settled over Wainwright Street like a soft, grey blanket. The world was hushed, as if holding its breath. The usual sounds of the town, the chirping of birds, the distant hum of engines, the chatter of early risers, were muffled, adding to the eerie stillness. The fog crept through the branches of the trees, wrapping them in its ghostly embrace, and pooled around the base of the buildings, making them appear to float in an ethereal sea. The old, cracked road of Wainwright Street glistened with dew, its asphalt worn smooth by the passage of time. Along the street, tall, narrow houses stood like sentinels, their windows dark and lifeless. Ivy climbed up their walls, intertwining with ancient brick and mortar, giving them an air of timelessness. A lone street lamp flickered in the mist, casting a pale golden glow that barely pierced the dense fog. The light danced and wavered, creating shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. The trees, with their gnarled branches, reached out like skeletal hands, their leaves rustling softly in the gentle breeze. As the fog thickened, it seemed to swallow Wainwright Street whole, turning it into a world of its own, disconnected from the rest of the town. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth and fallen leaves. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional drip of water from a leaf or the distant call of a bird. Time slowed to a crawl in the fog. The minutes stretched into hours, and the street seemed to hold its breath, waiting. It was in this fog that the secrets of Wainwright Street came alive. Memories of the past lingered in the mist, whispering stories of days gone by. There was the old house on the corner, its once bright paint now faded and peeling. In its heyday, it had been a bustling home filled with laughter and life. Now it stood silent, its windows reflecting the dull grey of the fog, giving the house a forlorn look. Further down the street, a small overgrown garden lay hidden behind a crumbling stone wall. In the early morning fog, the garden took on a magical quality. The flowers, though wild and untamed, glowed with a subtle luminescence, their colours muted but beautiful. The old stone bench, covered in moss, invited one to sit and reflect on the passage of time. As the morning wore on, the fog began to shift and stir. The first hints of sunlight pierced the mist, creating beams of light that cut through the grey. The fog, so thick and heavy moments before, started to lift, revealing the familiar shapes of Wainwright Street. The trees, once shrouded in mystery, now stood clearly defined against the brightening sky. The old houses, with their ivy-covered walls, emerged from the mist, their windows catching the early morning light. The street lamp, its duty done, flickered one last time before going dark. Wainwright Street gradually came back to life. The chirping of birds grew louder, and the distant hum of engines signaled the start of a new day. The fog receded, retreating to the edges of the town, leaving behind a street bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The asphalt glistened in the sunlight, its surface drying as the dew evaporated. The memories of the past, so vivid in the fog, faded into the background, leaving only faint echoes. The old house, the garden, all stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time. Normality returned to Wainwright Street. The once eerie stillness was replaced by the familiar sounds of daily life. The town's residents began to stir, opening their doors and stepping out into the fresh morning air. The street, now clear and bright, welcomed them as it had done for generations. Yet, as the last tendrils of fog disappeared, a sense of magic lingered. Wainwright Street, with its history and mystery, remained a place where the past and present intertwined. And though the fog would come and go, its whispers and secrets would always be a part of the street's timeless charm.